Hey, Larken Rose here, and I'm wondering if you would be okay with me punching you in the face. Now, hear me out. I'm not just going to walk up to you and punch you in the face, because that wouldn't be okay, and why would you agree to that or tolerate that? Instead, what I'm going to do is form a committee, and then another committee, and they're going to, pass recommendations back and forth, and different people can vote for the different people to be on the committees. You can vote, your neighbors can vote on whether you should be punched in the face, you can vote on whether you should be punched in the face. They'll have this formal thing that goes back and forth. There can be appeals, and then we'll appoint people who will officially decide if I'm allowed to punch you in the face, and we'll go back and forth and do all these formal weird rituals and write stuff down. It's going to be so complicated you won't really understand it, but then at the end of all that, then I punch you in the face. So that's okay, right? And we'll call it law, too, just to make it a little bit better. And we'll have all these formal rituals and stuff that make it legitimate, and then you'll get punched in the face. Now, oddly, I don't think most people would go for that. At least not in that context. However, let's shift my silly analogy to another silly analogy. You get two silly analogies for the price of one in this video. If people were just living here, minding their own business and trading and getting along and doing their thing, and some guy came along, and he had lots of mercenaries and lots of thugs to do his bidding, and he said, all right, here's the deal. I'm taking a whole bunch of your money. Every time you earn any money, I'm going to take a chunk, and I'm going to make you fill out big weird forms too. When you spend anything, I'm going to take a chunk of your money. If you own anything, I'm going to take a chunk of your money to allow you the privilege of owning something. And I'm going to control so many aspects of your lives. I'm going to regulate and control. I can decide what weapons you're allowed to have, what substances you're allowed to consume, drink, smoke, whatever, who you're allowed to trade with, what you're allowed to trade with, like mediums of exchange, how much you're allowed to pay for things, what you're allowed to sell, what you're allowed to buy, where you're allowed to live, 80 million billion things about all sorts of things. I'm going to do that. You have to obey me because I have thugs who will beat you up if you don't go along with what I say. If somebody did that, pretty sure everybody, instead of all of you people who vote and all of you people who believe in government, would say, well, who do you think you are? You're just some guy. You're not allowed to do that. But if instead the exact same thing is done to you, but first they put on a show of debates and elections and different parties and this arguing over whether that legislation is going to pass, and then the bill goes to the House and then it goes to the Senate and then there's a president and they can argue and you can vote to have somebody else in and do all this crap, and then all that crap happens to you and you get robbed and forcibly dominated. Does that make it okay? And if you believe in government and democracy, you have to say yes. Because the entire foundation of statism is that those bogus rituals make that sort of thing okay and legitimate and legal and so on and so forth. You have to actually believe that morality changes as a bunch of all that stupid stuff. Because if one guy with a bunch of armed thugs came along and inflicted that on you, nobody would go along with it. Nobody would see it as legitimate. Everybody would resist and say, who do you think you are? You have no right to do this. But if we do this big stupid spectacle, suddenly the exact same action, the exact same robbery and victimization of you is then legitimate and moral? How the hell does that work? See, this is why you cannot be a statist and be principled. It's utterly insane. You cannot make that add up. You cannot make that make sense. It's completely bonkers. And you cannot be principled at all, because if you start with the question, what do other people have the right to do to me? Well, if I'm minding my own business and I'm not threatening or hurting anybody, nobody has the right to just come rob me, demand money from me for something I didn't agree to under threat of violence. Can you say that statement out loud? Nobody has the right to do that to you. Out loud. Can you say that? Because it's pretty comfortable for me to say that. It's pretty easy for me to say that. And I would kind of think there's something wrong in your brain if you can't say, it's not okay for other people to rob me if I did for things I don't even want to support. I didn't ask for. There's no contract. There's no agreement. Just some thug robbing me to use money for stuff I don't even want. Is that okay? Is that a moral or an immoral thing for somebody to do to you? Now, people who can think clearly will all say, that's bad. That's not okay. People don't have the right to do that to you. Zero statists can say that and mean it. Their answer is, well, it's not okay for a normal person to do that to you. But if you have a whole bunch of weird frickin' rituals first, and you call it democracy, and you call it a constitutional republic, and we have these powers delegated to the different branches, blah, 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 and at the other end of all that absolute bullshit is somebody's robbing you, well, then it's valid, and then it's moral, and then it's legitimate. You have to believe that to believe in government, to believe in political authority at all. You have to. Because to believe in that is to believe that some people have the moral right to do things that the rest of us have no right to do, and everybody knows we have no right to do it. I don't get to tax you. Well, I've decided that your fair share of some random thing I want to do is $5,000. You'd think I was insane, and I would be. Oh, but the IRS or the state government or whatever, oh, they've sent you a tax bill. But there was a whole bunch of weird political noise that happened before that, going back like way before your generation. There's been scribbles and rituals and this weird crap going on the whole time. There's a constitution way back there that said some stuff and said Congress shall have power to lay and collect taxes. And so they do, because we wrote it down on a piece of paper, a piece of parchment. So all that noise, and the end result is you think somebody has the right to rob you. You think somebody has the right to violently control you and decide all those things about what you can eat and drink and what weapons you can have and all these things when you haven't threatened or harmed anybody. And I'll just throw this in to make it match up with current events. You think that if you don't have a special piece of paper, then violent thugs of ruling classes have the right to violently prevent you from setting foot anywhere in a gigantic area, including if somebody in that area wants you on their property and invites you. For example, if I invite somebody to Mexico, to where I live, most of you who believe in government have to really and truly believe that scribbles and rituals and constitutions and elections and a whole bunch of bullshit gave some human beings, mere mortals, the moral right to use violence to prevent me from having somebody I want to be on my property, inviting them onto my property, and then coming onto the property. You have to believe that if you support border controls. And I could go down the list. It's a long list of a whole bunch of stupid status crap people believe in, and that they know full well they have no right to do, and their neighbors have no right to do. But it's so weird to me that in a population that imagines itself to be more or less informed and thinking and enlightened and all that, people still believe something that insane. And the only reason people keep believing that is they're surrounded by other people who believe that. Like if you were surrounded by people who all pointed out how utterly bonkers it is to think these weird, bizarre rituals give some people an exemption from morality, if everyone around you was like, why on earth would you believe that? You wouldn't believe it anymore. If you believe in government, it is entirely because you're surrounded by people who believe in government and you grew up around people who believe in government. It's an absolutely irrational, just cult belief in something that is utterly ridiculous and makes no logical sense. And this is just a very simple way to demonstrate that. Is this good or bad? Well, it depends. Did a bunch of weird frickin' rituals happen first? Because then it might be good. If not, then it's bad. So you think these weird voodoo things of scribbles and votes and all that alter morality and can bestow upon certain people the moral right to rob you and dominate you and control what you can do by force, even when you're not threatening or harming anybody. You really believe that? If you believe in government, yes, you really believe that. You have to. And it's kind of frustrating. I'm not speaking just for myself. There's lots and lots of voluntarists who have finally gotten out of the indoctrination, and it's really weird to see an entire population of people who are otherwise civilized and intelligent and more or less informed. They may even be like brilliant in different fields of thought, but the vast majority of them really and truly believe that if you do a bunch of weird pseudo-religious political rituals, that alters morality, and then some people have the right to rob you and boss you around and hurt you if you don't obey every one of their weird arbitrary commands, which, by the way, may change day to day. You have to believe that, and the thing is, people who did believe that and eventually outgrew that insanity, including me, feels like a lifetime. It's coming up on 3 decades ago when I gave up my statism, but that was me. I believed that crap because I was surrounded by other people who believed that crap. My parents believed that crap. All my neighbors and friends believed that crap. Everybody I knew believed that crap, which is the only reason any of us didn't immediately recognize it as absolutely insane. And you know how I know? Because when I started this video about punching you in the face, and I said, oh, well, I'm not just going to do it. I'm going to do these rituals. And 0 of you, a grand total of 0 of you, thought, oh, well, in that case, it would be okay if he punched me in the face. None of you thought that. But every single one of you who believes in government absolutely believes something that isn't just that stupid. It is that particular brand of stupidity. It is literally that. The only difference is you didn't believe it when I said it, but you do believe it when government says it. And that is the only difference. It isn't because their claim is any less ridiculous and bonkers than mine. It's just that that's the ridiculous bonkers belief that you've been surrounded with all your life and never taken the time to actually look at and question it. Because if you do, you're going to stop believing in authority.